Other than the sudden nature of the changes, the other aspect that has surprised some analysts about the events unfolding in Myanmar is how enthusiastic Western countries have been in embracing those changes when typically they are more cautious. In this next report, we take a closer look at some of those likely reasons for this enthusiasm.
For decades, Myanmar was a country that didn't catch the attention of the international community. But during the past several months, many are not only closely observing the changes, but reacting to them, including the United States and the European Union.
I hope that we will be able to indicate the first easing of restrictive measures on Burma, where the government there has taken important measures towards the freeing of political prisoners and the holding of free elections, and we should recognize that in what we say and do at this meeting today.
Acknowledging the political changes in Myanmar, Western nations have reciprocated just as boldly. In January, the United States eased one of its many sanctions against Myanmar. It was a small step since most of the significant sanctions are still in place, but it is being viewed as an important gesture to encourage the positive changes taking place in Myanmar. The easing of U.S. sanctions followed U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's historic visit to the isolated country in December of last year. It was the first visit by a U.S. official in 50 years. The United States also hopes to establish formal diplomatic relations between the two countries. And the United States isn't the only country supporting the changes in Myanmar. Both the European Union and Australia have also eased economic sanctions.
Today, I join President Obama in welcoming the news that the government has released hundreds of political prisoners, several of whom have languished in prison for decades. This is a substantial and serious step forward in the government's stated commitment to political reform, and I applaud it, and the entire international community should as well. As I said last December, the United States will meet action with action. Based on the steps taken so far, we will now begin. In consultation with members of Congress and at the direction of President Obama, we will start the process of exchanging ambassadors with Burma.
So why is the West so quick to acknowledge the change in Burma? There has been no change in the military leadership and no elections have taken place yet. Western interest in Myanmar, experts say, is inextricably linked to China. Early February, the New York Times reported that David Petraeus, the director of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, or the CIA, will likely visit Myanmar this year. That would be a clear sign of the United States developing more strategic ties with Myanmar, which has had China as its main supporter for years. With a new U.S. interest in Myanmar, that country might find itself sandwiched in between another power struggle. The country's geographical position, bordering both India and China, could play a key role in Indo-China relations as well.
So we have a very good and historical and traditional relation with both of the countries. You can choose friends, but you cannot choose neighbors. So this is the story of Myanmar. So we have to be in good relation with both India and China.
In the second part of our interview tonight, we take a closer look at some of these other forces that are influencing the events in Myanmar. What kind of an impact might they have within the region and globally? As you said, Professor, now there have been periods, certain elections have happened. I think 1990 was the one that Aung San Suu Kyi got really famous about, but they suppressed her as well. So what makes you think that this time they're really going to start to change? It could just be another short-term type of phase and then go back to...
Well, it could be hypothetically. 1990, what happened was, now, 1990 elections, Aung San Suu Kyi, National League for Democracy, one got more than 60% of the votes. More than 80 or around 80% of the number of seats. But the junta military did not allow it. Now, since then, the protests have been intensified. And now the military knows that they have to give way to another thing. Either there will be another form of vast revolt, which they don't want. On top of all this, after long, as I said, diplomacy-wise, the military or the present civilian regime, which is being backed by the military 100%, which consists of former army generals. Diplomacy-wise, they introduce these reforms as re-registering National League for Democracy, Aung San Suu Kyi Party, withdrawing the rule which existed earlier that those who were in prison cannot contest. Last year they withdrew that, allowing a free in March or December 2010, freeing Aung San Suu Kyi from house arrest.
What do you think of the intentions of these Western countries after 50 years to send an official is a pretty big move? So, I mean, are there agendas on their behalf also for engaging Myanmar?
Well, obviously, they have their agenda also, because China is emerging. China is emerging as a nation. When Hillary Clinton visited Myanmar, China was not happy, because China factor is the factor which makes the USA, Britain, and so on, to even India, to have little bit of conciliatory attitude towards Burma. That is international factor. Now, with the homegrown solution, as I said, I repeat this, the present regime, Tianxians, diplomatically, they have worked it out very well, because for their homegrown solution, they get the approval from the international community, which means now there had been a lot of suppression. There had been killings, suppression, murders of small ethnic groups. Now once United States of America, Britain, and now just today, European Union lifted sanctions, recognizing Myanmar's attempts as genuine, means once there's a change, there won't be allegations from the international community regarding war crimes, killings and so on.
Don't you think it's a bit of a double standard in the way the West deals with such issues? In certain countries they go after it.
Of course, West definitely has a double standard, very hypocritical double standard.
May I ask you, Professor, you had mentioned this in the earlier part of the interview, but I've heard and I've read other analysts also say that the Arab Spring must have had some impact on the changes. Can you comment on that?
Yes, in fact, the head of state of Myanmar, Thein Sein, he himself has said, we don't want something like Arab Spring to happen in Myanmar. So, as things are, the Myanmar Spring, which was there some time back, not in that scale as it had happened in the Middle East, but now it looks that it is going to be summer. So the military junta also will be safe. Incidentally, the constitution, which was introduced in 2008 by Myanmar, has a clause which says 1/4 of the parliament should be from the military. That is 25% out of 440. 110 will be military, nominated by the commander-in-chief. So the changes won't be that, drastic. The military, because of these ethnic issues, violence, and so military has to be there. It's a good thing, but they have.
Do you think her party has a real chance if elections were to be held in the near future? Do you think her party really has a chance at making a difference?
The thing is, the constitution has a clause again. Head of states of Myanmar cannot be a person who has been married to a foreigner. That's it. So, Aung San Suu Kyi was married to a British scholar who died some time back. So, constitutional provision. But if elections are not rigged, her party, National League for Democracy, will win if elections are not. Then of course she will be a kingmaker.
Asian countries have maintained stronger links with Myanmar. How do you foresee this going, even for Sri Lanka, connections with Myanmar? How will they proceed in the future?
Of course, Sri Lanka has had extremely good relations with Myanmar for a long time. From about the 11th century, we have had very close trade relations. In fact, when Buddhism declined in India and when Buddhism declined in Sri Lanka also on the Polonnaruwa era, we used to get monks from Myanmar or Thailand, Siam Nikaya and all the Burma Nikaya we have. So we get the monks from, so the religious context. For as far as historical international relations are concerned, the religion was one of the very, very key factors. And so Sri Lanka has had, and even in the recent past, we have had diplomatic relations. We have had an ambassador in Myanmar, India is having. So Asian countries have had good relations. Really, in the complex global situation, even now, confusions are being brought by superpower or big powers because of their self-interest. Otherwise, we have had with the Asian countries very good, extremely good relations.
Okay, well, Professor, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you very much once again for taking the time to join us on Global Perspectives.
Okay. Thank you very much.
In April, Myanmar will be holding by-elections to fill 48 empty parliamentary seats, and the Elections Commission just gave the main opposition leader, the famous Nobel Prize-winning Aung San Suu Kyi, approval to run in those elections. Even if Suu Kyi's party wins all those seats, it will still represent very little power in the 440-seat lower house of parliament. However, observers say it's a big step forward towards democracy. With that, we bring this episode of Global Perspectives to an end. We hope you join us again next Monday at 8:30 p.m. for another new show. Good night and have a great week.